Your name's not down, you're not coming in. Not tonight, not tonight.
We are Security Nation.
Your name's not down, you're not coming in.
Our expertise allows everyone to have a great time.
Your name's not down, you're not coming in.
So they can feel safe and enjoy the occasion to the max.
Not tonight, you're not on the list.
Guys, here we are. We are finally at the show that we promised you. We've got three special guests with us tonight. I'd like you to say hello to Mark, one of the police licensing officers from Southampton.
Good evening, everyone.
We have Ben and Lee. Ben's from another part of the world. We won't mention it, but Portsmouth anyway. You guys all part of the licensing teams, yes?
Indeed. Yes.
Okay, welcome. And thanks for coming on. Guys, I've got a lot of questions that you guys have sent in. I've had hundreds of questions from all over the UK. People have come in with lots of different questions. So we're going to go through a few things. We're going to ask you some things. And please, unload, feel free. You can tell us everything you like. And we'll go from there. And hopefully we'll have a good time as well. So let me start with you guys, really. What do you do? You're licensed in police. You're all obviously police officers as it goes. Special remit is licensing. Tell us what you do.
Shall I lead then?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So, a police officer's licensing job, well, it is what it says on the tin, essentially. Our responsibility is first and foremost to ensure all the premises are doing as they should towards their licensing conditions. Each venue is different, whether it be a small food takeaway to one of the biggest nightclubs in the country, and everything in weird and wonderful in between. Not only that, we're eyes and ears and specialist evidence gatherers while we're out there, but at the end of the day, we are still police officers, and if something's going on in front of us, there is an expectation that we're also there to be able to deal with it. From time to time, it may mean we take different actions. From time to time, it may mean that we utilise other members of the community who are out there, and that includes yourselves, the SAA badge holders. You're the specialists in your field, and it helps to have that two-way street and close partnership working with yourselves, so that we can help you, but not only that, but you can help us, which keeps our nighttime economy area safe, and I think that's what we're all looking for, and that's if everyone comes to the town, enjoys themselves and goes home, that's a win-win for everyone, not only our team, but certainly your team as well. I think that about it?
Yeah, we're quite passionate about nighttime economy. We know there are some struggles at the moment in the last year or two since the lockdown things have eased following COVID. Our day-to-day, Monday to Friday, can be a little bit tedious and office-based. We go through licensing applications and we just speak to licence holders and premises, DPSs, and we make contact with Marcel and other SIA management and SIA badge holders in relation to incidents that have happened at the weekend. We review incidents over the course of a weekend or anything happens overnight in the week. So we do review crime and disorder at venues and in the nighttime economy areas. And also this time of the year, although it's only January, we're already talking to each other and talking to event managers and festivals and things like that to plan this year's and this summer's events. So we get involved in the big scale events as well.
Okay, so you guys get involved in planning for future events as well. Can I just ask, just randomly, licensing doesn't change no matter where you are. So, for example, Ben, you're from Portsmouth, but licensing for a nightclub in Portsmouth, is that the same as Southampton? Whether it could be Newcastle, licensing rules change? It doesn't vary at all around the country?
No, the law for the Licensing Act, England and Wales, so everything in England and Wales, Scotland will be slightly different because their act is different, but yeah, England and Wales is all the same.
It should pretty much be there in black and white the same no matter where you go. Yeah. Okay, and as Mark said, it's a two-way street. Obviously, you expect to work with door staff, venues, bits and pieces, and stuff like that. Brilliant. Okay, so for us, I mean, one of the things you mentioned, obviously, is about cooperation with door staff, talking to venues, licensees, DPSs, managers, stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I've been a doorman 30 years, and thankfully, I haven't had too many real run-ins with the police, one or two. Not going to say I haven't breached the law once or twice, but we all have at some point. Anyway, the fact is, we try to be this professional organisation now, and we feel that it's better today than it was 20 years ago, for example. Which leads me on really to a few questions. Now, the questions that we've got have come from, well, we've had over, like I said, over 300 questions put in, and they've come from all over the UK. And some of these questions are quite raw. Some of them, I think you just got to be honest and go, yeah, shit happens. It is what it is. And some of the stuff you're going to go, yeah, we'll see. But so let me ask. I'll ask each of you to sort of give your take on certain questions. I think it's probably the easiest one. What's your feeling on, and this has come from Bolton, Richard. We have a venue where the police like to come out for a night out on their nights off. Occasionally we have the over-exuberant police officer that likes to wave his warrant badge when he's had a few to drink and throw his weight around being a police officer. What's your take on that? I've had that.
It's a massive no-no. You know, the difficulty is, and it's the same no matter what the incident is, and if I'm in a boozer and I'm expecting to be looked after, I'm expecting to have the best table, and if I don't get it, I stamp my feet and show my warrant card, that's no-no.
Yeah.
And equally, you know, it paints us all then with the same brush. Don't get me wrong, there are some bad eggs. There's bad eggs in every single industry. I dare say there's a few bankers out there with their fingers in the tills. But in general, we still trust the banks to look after our money. You know, if I go the whole hog and go the other way, and without mentioning his name, you think back to the Sarah Everard case. That was a nasty, nasty, horrible human being. We're not all the same.
No.
We've not all gone out and done that. So when you bring it all the way back to what do I feel about a police officer flashing his badge in a nightclub and expecting preferential treatment, no, it shouldn't happen. And if it does happen, then I would be the first to say, report it. Report it, not only to your police licensing team, get on the...
Do you know what I think? And this is my opinion. If I was working the door, and I think that I'm generally pretty polite to most people, and if you put your badge in front of me, I'd probably ask you and say, I think you need to put that away. If you continue to do that, I'm going to think you're a fucking knob and you're starting to annoy me.
So, yeah.
You know, if you keep doing that, and I'm going to say to you, listen, I think you've had enough to drink, you need to stop. And if you want to be a bigger knob, then we will report it. And I'd probably expect somebody from the licensing team or somebody to go, we're going to have a word with this guy.
Well, I think you're right with the drink side of it, because you don't do it down Tesco's going, no, knock 50 quid off, do you? You don't get it, because it's probably the alcohol that's fueling that a little bit, but to do it anywhere would be appropriate.
And I 100% accept. Police officers are the same as us. Everyone needs to have a night out, let some steam off. It is what it is. But you can be a knob, but just don't get the warrant card out, and then you're a normal knob if you like. But you know, so for us, that's quite frustrating for doormen. It's happened to me. I know that it's happened to other doormen. So that was one of the questions from Roy from Bolton.
I guess the doorman in that situation anywhere up and down that land would feel awkward. And it puts them in a position, doesn't it? So what do I, you know, where do I stand? What do I do with this? If they've not experienced it before, then it could be awkward for them as well, and that's inappropriate as well. It just puts them in that situation.
Can I just finish this one off then? Just don't be afraid to say no. Just don't be afraid. Don't ever be afraid to challenge and say no. There's a long list of reasons as why you don't want someone in your venue, and that could be one of them. And just say no, and you'd have the backup of any licensing team up and down the country, wherever you are.
Good advice. Thank you for that. So, guys, listen. Just because somebody thinks that they can flash their warrant card, if you think you're in the right and you know they're being silly, there's no problem with you challenging that. So, anyway, moving on. Body-worn cameras and facial recognition, is it a good thing or a bad thing for body-worn cameras to have this so-called technology coming in? What do you think?
It's quite vague.
Body-worn video, you know, let's be honest, we've had it for a number of years, and we'll tell you, and any cop will tell you, when it first came out, we panicked, and you know, the professional standards would use it against us.
Why were you panicking?
Because all of a sudden,
Something new, in it?
Yeah, new technology, a bit of a. We're expected to go with technology and change.
Can I ask this question? And this is, did you think, fucking hell, it's like Big Brother watching us do our job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of cops didn't take it on until it was sort of a mandatory thing that we had to have it, personal issue, and then we had no choice.
See, I appreciate your honesty there, because I pretty much knew what your answer was going to be. It's new, it's coming in, and you're thinking, fucking hell, these guys can see everything and hear everything we're saying. And now it's widely acceptable, and body cameras are acceptable, and now Dorman have got it. So we, as Dorman, I think, we know it's there. I think it helps us in situations where we have people in our face, we have people that are, you know, causing a problem. We go, well, we're recording everything you say, you know. And vice versa. I think the police over the years have become comfortable with it because it's now used for the correct purpose and what it's used for.
I think
it's also a saving grace, isn't it, as well? Because it's sort of swung the other way, where now actually cops probably want to put it on more so because of the complaints that come through. And actually, as you say, a picture paints 1,000 words, and the body worn, they can watch it and go, actually, you're lying.
Yeah.
The cops have done nothing wrong, and the body worn proves it. So I think they use it more.
Sorry.
No, you carry on, sorry.
I was going to say, likewise, if you've got some CCTV at a pub, club, restaurant, whatever, all you see is moving people. And if that reaches the court, if there's an incident that ever reaches the courtroom or is even looked at, if someone gets arrested, interviewed or whatever, all you see is those people moving around a restaurant. You don't get the feel, the atmosphere, anything like that. Body worn captures audio.
It's there.
What CCTV doesn't.
It's there right in the middle of it.
And what's better is me in uniform or even out of uniform talking calmly to someone, explaining a bit of legislation, saying, look, I think you've had too much, you need to go home, you committed a public order offence, or you could face arrest, blah, 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 going through that process. And they're shouting and swearing at me. I'm saying, look, this is your final opportunity now. And I've gone through all of those steps and processes, giving them ample opportunity to say, look, you've had your warning. It's your final warning. You need to look. What can I do? You need to go. And they're carrying on and on. They're getting more and more aggressive because I'm staying calm because I know that that's recording now.
Yes.
That makes me look even better and makes them look even worse. And they fail to realise that. But on the flip side as well, as soon as you push that button down and that little light or that little noise makes its sound or whatever, and I know you guys have them and they make the noise as well. People's attitude and behaviours change. And sometimes it does us
Yes,
a
for
favour.
sure.
People calm down. But if they don't, how good does that look?
So I'm going to absolutely agree. It does change people's attitude. Now, actually, I spoke to Mark recently about something that happened to me New Year's Eve, and 2 police officers' attitude changed with me. I got pulled over at 3 a.m. I was the only car on the road. I was following the police car. I was behind the police car. I was next to the police car, and I was in speed the whole way. He slowed down and then left a gap, hurtled up behind me and said, you were speeding. And at no point was I speeding. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to film you now. You're filming me. I'm going to film you.
Yep.
You show me any evidence anywhere where I was speeding, because I was behind you. I was next to you. And after all the bullshit, he basically just said, or she said as well, we just wanted to know if you had anything to drink. Why not just ask me that? Yeah. Why come out with all the bullshit? And when I said, well, show me any evidence. So I get that, and people's actions do change, people's demeanours change, especially when all of a sudden you're on camera and in front of a judge. He goes, well, actually, the police officer's been calm, he's been polite, he hasn't said the things you said he said. So I get that. Handcuffs, do you agree with it or not for Dorman?
Training-wise, I don't know enough about what...
No. Handcuffs, do you agree with them, yes or not?
At this present moment in time,
And I'm not talking about the bedroom.
At this moment in time, personally, no.
And that's for Dorman.
And that's for Dorman.
Okay, so you don't agree with Dorman at the moment. Interesting. Ben?
Probably have to go with Mark on that. I don't agree necessarily at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will come at some point, but...
Agree?
I'm on the fence.
You're on the fence. So let me ask you then, and 100% respect this, why don't you agree at the moment?
The SIA at the minute, it's still the professionalisation of the door staff is still, although it's been going on for many years now, in its infancy. We still have too much disparity between conflict management and a willingness to go hands-on. 9 times out of 10, I'll see incidents where had they took the opportunity to talk the person down, they would have got to a safer conclusion of any incident rather than going full 90s and issuing them with a slap straight off the bat.
Okay.
Because then once you've put the cuffs on, the difference is if I put the cuffs on someone and they're getting nicked, they know the old Bill's done it and it's a different reaction.
Yeah.
If you see 3 or 4 security guards handcuff a punter, when that punter gets outside, personally, all I see is as soon as those cuffs are off, the fight restarts.
He's raging. Yeah.
So at the minute, for me, no. Let's concentrate and let's work on the conflict management side of it. Let's get everyone comfortable with talking the fight out of someone rather than going hands-on and put... Because don't forget, handcuffs are a massive, massive use of force. And what I do see is customers being handcuffed and then being left alone. Something happens to that customer, they fall over, break something, smash
Run off.
something.
I think there was a case a couple of years ago where a lad ran off.
Whoever's put those cuffs
yeah.
on, they're responsible for that person. And we're just as bad as it, and we do lose people what are cuffed from time to time. But I think at the minute, it's not drilled into the SIA enough to take that responsibility that once that person's handcuffed, they become part of you. You do not leave. Doesn't matter if your mate's on the floor next door getting 10 bells kicked out of him. You've got a responsibility now, this person in handcuffs, because if something happens to them, it's on you. That said, I can see a point in time in the future where, you know what, with the right training, with the right knowledge and with the right experience, there probably is a place for them. But at the minute, I'm not sure.
I think it massively varies on the ability and experience of the doorman. I seldomly, and you guys know, I don't tend to work the door too much, but I can't remember the last time I've had to physically get hold of somebody. I can say enough's enough, this is why, come and have a chat with me, and this is how it's going to be. And through a process of talking to them, I'm going to say the right way, I guess, and most experienced doormen who can speak English can do that, no problem. There is a problem in the industry at the moment where there is a communication problem with a vast amount of doormen, and the way they come across, they don't have the experience to be able to diffuse a situation correctly or have the time or the patience, and therefore they think the easy option out is to be using handcuffs. And I do think that just throws fuel on the fire, and that person is then raging because 3 doormen have pinned them down, cuffed them, and then you are opening a whole world of legislation there where you are responsible for that person. So I don't necessarily disagree, but I do know that obviously people that teach handcuff courses, they're going to shout at me and say, well, you should be pushing that. I think they're great in the right situation, but I think everything has to be right.
Can we just turn that one around? Do you teach handcuff training?
No, I don't.
Right. Okay.
Not here. I don't do this. I do everything. I don't do handcuff training or pit training. It's the only 2 I don't do.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So another question, and this one is I guess a licensing thing. Do you guys get quotas? As in, should you go and check an amount of venues? Do they say, oh, you've got to do at least 25 venues this week, or do you get like a quota?
No.
So you guys, and I'm going to sort of, without making your job sound simple, you have sort of carte blanche. You can sort of carve it up and go, I'm going to see this area, that area. Because like, we're out in the New Forest here.
Yeah.
And there are pubs here that you can visit, which I know. I had a letter off you a while back saying, can you tell us who supplies this pub? And for you guys, you can just sort of, apart from obviously intel you've got to go back to and find out who's doing this and doing that. And let's be honest, come on. There must be loads of people that grass up doormen that go, he's working without a licence, he's working with this and that. I got grassed up and I've got a licence. So, you know what I mean? That must happen a lot for you guys.
We will always look at information if we get it about people working without a licence and things like that. We'll always notify and work with the SIA as well. If we come across people working without a licence, we'll notify the SIA.
Do you not find that their lack of, I'm going to say lack of enthusiasm, lack of doing anything really is frustrating? I find for the SIA. You could hand them the evidence, you could hand them this, hand them that, and then 3 months later they still haven't done anything. That person's still working the door.
Well, like you said at the start, you don't know really kind of exactly what we do, and we explain our role. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what they do. We work alongside them. We've got colleagues and contacts within the SIA who we speak to and we refer our information to.
So
But I don't know exactly the ins and outs of what they do.
can I ask you something just while I'm thinking about this now?
Yeah.
So, if you're a doorman, and I know this because one of our doormen, it happened to, an allegation was made against him, and a girl said that he had been sexually inappropriate. He slapped her on the ass or something like that,
Yeah.
or whatever. And his badge was immediately suspended, but it was suspended for nearly 12 months. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, there's no further action. And he's like, it never happened in the first place anyway. On the night, there's no evidence, there's no this and that. But the fact was, his licence was suspended. And he said, where's this going? What? Just because some drunken girl has made this allegation. And, you know, from the doorman's point of view, and don't get me wrong, I 100% know there are wrong uns out there. I know that there are dickheads out there in our industry. Fucking sure there is. You know, I might employ one or two. Who knows? But my point is, we do have them. But a lot of the time, doormen sometimes have... and I am talking about the ones that are wrongly accused of stuff, or things happen and their licences are withdrawn, suspended. They don't earn any money because they can't for a year, and they got a good argument there to go, well, hang on, who's going to now pay me for the last year that I've lost all this money because some drunken person has said, oh, I punched him in the face, or I did this, or I did that. And whilst you make your inquiries, I can no longer work. You know, is that a fair thing? Because... And I might be wrong in saying this. I always assumed you were innocent and you're proven guilty in this country. You know, until a judge in a court of law says you're guilty of that crime, you're innocent. So how are you punishing? And I know this is an SIA thing more than you guys, but why are you punishing the doorman before anybody actually says, no, he has done this, or no, that's wrong?
I think the issue here is it's to do with safeguarding. And if that person was allowed to continue operating with their badge, you're just putting the piranha back into the swimming pool, to use a phrase.
I'm so glad you said that.
Now, they might be innocent, and it could take 12 months for it to come out. But that's the problem with the sector in what we work. And I say we because with the police are the same. You've only to think back to the Met have it quite often where they will have a shooting incident, and it may be after 2 or 3, 4 years that it was a lawful shooting, but that poor officer's had to spend all that time suspended. Yes, okay, he would still get paid, but he's got his whole life to worry about, have I done the right thing? Have I done everything what my training said I could do?
Yeah.
There's always a risk at the back end of it.
I think the difference is no doorman would complain if we're suspended for a year but we're on full pay. And that's the difference. There is,
I get that.
Yeah.
But then, same with any criminal investigation, and correct me if you disagree with what I'm saying here, is that if someone's arrested and they may be innocent until proven guilty, obviously it goes to a court, bail conditions can be applied to that person restricting their personal life. They may not be able to go to a certain place or do certain things whilst that investigation is underway and taking place. Those restrictions may impact that person's place of work, or it shouldn't, but it could impact their personal life, things they can see and things they can do. It's kind of no different to that, and ultimately it's the SIA that would make the decision as to whether that person's a big enough risk or not, based on the allegation that's made as to whether that badge should be suspended or not.
Yeah. And I mean, it just seems very special, especially when, you know, the person hasn't done anything wrong and he's gone, hang on, I've worked here all the time, and all of a sudden I've got somebody who's drunk who just goes, that doorman's punched me in the face and done this, or whatever it might be, the allegation. And the fact is, I think that the SIA is so quick to just go, fine, let's just suspend his licence. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, how am I fucking supposed to earn a living?
But sorry, Ben, that takes us back to an earlier question with the body-worn video. And I'm not saying that every doorman should have one, but if every doorman would have one, that would stop overnight every single malicious claim.
Yeah.
Your camera's on there for the whole 8 hours that you're on duty, recording everything. Someone can't turn around and said, he touched me because the camera's on. He punched me in the face, the camera's on. So it would stop all those malicious... It'd be interesting to find out how many of these claims are made and how many licences are suspended each year. And is there some... If it is such a big issue, is there something the SAA could do Whereas rather than working frontline, you could take a back office type role.
Can I ask you as well?
Yeah.
Because my knowledge of it isn't that great. Is there an appeal process to a suspended badge? I think there is, isn't there?
There is an appeal process, but as anything, any appeal process is long-winded.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I've never had to do it. But I've got guys that have, or a guy who specifically experienced that, and he appealed, and I sort of knew that what this person was saying was wrong.
Yeah.
Because I don't even think he was in the same room at the time when it happened. But the fact was, he's like, this is fucking ridiculous. It's happened. And even the judge, when it went to court, the judge said, there's no evidence of any of it. And he basically said, why has this even been brought in front of me? He threw it out and said, this man should never have been arrested. And my point is, I don't agree with the SIA just suspending badges off of somebody's say-so.
Well, I don't know about you two, but I've only been on the department for 7 months. Obviously, cover Portsmouth, and since I've been there, it's not been with the SIA when there's been allegations against SIA. It's not been a quick jump, send it to the referral through to the SIA to consider it. I know I can only speak personally, and I can't speak for Mark or Lee. But if there's been an allegation, I will try and get down to the venue, look at the CCTV, and see if there is anything to support that.
Yeah.
And if there is, then make that assessment to
100%. I wouldn't disagree with that. If you went down there and looked at it and went, actually, there is something in that,
Yeah.
I'd be the first one to go, well,
But there's a couple, like at the moment we've got down there that I've got that there might be something, there might not. So
we're not talking about your mate that just stuck the nut on, mate.
No, that's all dealt. But there's some that it's just there's an allegation, and we'll let the investigation continue. And if there is an outcome where he's likely to get charged, then that referral might go in. But until that sort of, as you say, innocent until proven guilty, until that sort of he is proven guilty, then it might be a case of just holding off. So it's not an automatic, there's an allegation, right, there's the SIA referral, let them deal with it.
That's better. I think that's better.
I think we're all agreed we wouldn't make a referral on a whim because we know at the end of the day the likelihood is that doorman's going to lose their badge and they're going to lose their livelihood. If I'm sat at work on Monday morning reviewing CCTV and it's an absolute stone waller that what they've done is wrong,
I think that's different. I think there's no argument there.
Yeah.
I suppose I don't really know how I can sort of show it other than to just say, you know what, these guys, they've been stopped, but there's a few that genuinely they shouldn't have, but it's easy to do.
Yeah. Like these guys have said, you know, we will do referrals. We are duty bound to do that to protect the public, but we will look at the jobs first, and we'll only do the referrals when, like Mark said, when they're stonewallers. It's not.
We've even done where a off-duty badge holder has put himself on duty during a night out to assist colleagues, acted a little bit outside his remit, and he's. I think he did get arrested. And
certainly interviewed.
It wasn't strong enough to go to the SAA, but we didn't want that person working in the city, just in case, because it made bail conditions a little bit easier. It made bumping into the victim a little bit easier. We asked for the owner of the company that he worked for to employ him outside the city for a couple of months while the investigation went on.
I've seen and heard of that done before.
Yeah, so, you know, it takes the fight out of the fire straight away. There's no risk of the victim coming along next week, as is their right to go back to the venue without fear and favour of the doorman getting involved again.
Yeah.
And especially while the incident's being investigated. So, yeah, I ain't got a problem with doing something like that. And as I say, if I was to make a referral, it's because I've got nowhere else to turn.
And likewise, just one more, we've seen door staff at a venue using the furniture at that venue to defend themselves against people. No referral was put in because actually...
Was it justifiable?
The threat and risk was quite high to them in the venue, and they were using chairs and stuff to protect themselves. And do you know what?
Not
they
that
needed to.
Not that you would, but if you came at me with a knife, I'm going to wrap a chair around your head.
Exactly.
Why? Can I justify it? Yes. Was it necessary? Yes. And if you're going to stab me, I'm wrapping a chair around your head or anything else. So, and for you guys out there, SIA guys that are listening, as much as I'm not condoning picking up a bar stool, certainly not saying go out there and just wrap bar stools around people's heads, but there are circumstances that sometimes demand you to defend yourself, and I am going extreme here against weapons, knives, stuff like that, where the police should see it and understand it for what it is and go, actually, yeah, he needed to pick up that chair, he needed to pick up whatever to defend himself, because and we have seen it, and knife crime is on the rise. You know it, I know it. And, you know, for us, it's a dodgy thing out there now. I can, afterwards, I'll show you some footage of a guy attacking my guy with a shetty, and he got not guilty because, and I will quote you on this, and I know that a certain police inspector is going to not like this, but I'm going to quote your officer. How do we know if it was an aggressive knife attack or not?
Hey?
That was quoted.
Okay.
That's what he said. And I said, is there such a thing as a non-aggressive knife attack? If there is, I need you to fucking show me, because, yeah, I'm just going to stab you. That's all right, mate. We're friends. It's all on video.
That wasn't Hampshire, was it?
It was in Southampton.
Oh.
And the guy had a 15-inch machete. I'll show you afterwards the CCTV footage. And your officer and I actually quoted him, and the chief superintendent said, please don't put that in the paper. And I said, I'm not going to. But I said, why have you not arrested him? Because I didn't arrest him on the night. He had a hammer, a claw hammer and a knife, and you didn't arrest him until the next day. And when I asked that question, he said, well, we're not sure whether it was an aggressive knife attack. Quote. And it's there, it's logged. Okay. It's classified. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. Top Gun. No, but it's there. It is there. And as much as I sort of looked, and as you did, your reaction was one of, really, that's exactly what it was. So let's get back to a couple of questions. What do you think about these hunting groups, the paedophile hunting groups? Do you think, because I know people that are involved in them, do you think they should be licensed and regulated? Because at the minute, it seems there is no SIA backing for that.
That kind of brings it back to topic a little bit, doesn't it? That's a bit of a curveball. My understanding of that is rather limited, but that I know there's sort of premises that they set people up that are doing things they shouldn't be online, and then they set them up and then call the police and present the evidence. I think the issue
I think
with
there's some good ones.
Yeah.
In as much as
I think
the
issue with
results.
it, though, my understanding of the issue with it is that they then put the evidence online before it goes through the criminal process, and that can hinder the investigation.
Okay.
My knowledge on that isn't brilliant, and it is a bit of a different part, if forgive me.
No,
but,
I think I don't think anyone's
should they
an
be
expert.
licensed and regulated? I don't see how you could or you would be able to.
I'll tell you what I've seen of late.
Who would you be answerable to and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, I don't know that.
Do you know what I mean? Exactly.
Mark Hawley. But genuinely, of late, I've seen videos where the big guys that are going with these hunting groups to protect the person from other people, they make it quite clear you're not under any danger, you're not under any threat. But I've noticed they're wearing SIA badges now. These guys that are part of these hunting groups, what I call the muscle, if you like, the big guys, the doormen, and what they're saying is, well, we're trained, at least we're regulated by the SIA, but the SIA does not back this. I know, and these hunting groups are doing their thing, and me for one, I'm only saying that they catch 10 times more than the police do in terms of the way they do it.
Mm-hmm. But your problem there is you can't quantify that. When you say they catch 10 times more, you may out 10 times more, but don't forget it's the police what take them through the justice process.
For sure, I think if I'm right, they sort of build up the case, get all the messages, get everything.
Yeah. Set up the meat.
Set the meat up and then basically hand him to you on a plate and go, there's the evidence, there's the messages, there's the stuff. Now, in theory, if that is all done, every I is dotted and crossed, I don't know.
You've got the legislation for surveillance and entrapment and stuff like that, which we're governed by and have to play by those rules, whereas I suppose those hunting groups don't have to abide by those rules. If they were licensed, then they would be governed the same as we are, which then makes it a lot difficult to achieve their outcome.
Can I turn it around on you, the original question? Do you think it's activity the SIA badge holders should involve themselves in doing the meets and the setups?
Truthfully, I think it should have nothing to do with the SIA.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
That's my thing. Because let's be honest, the SIA are bad enough as it is trying to regulate us, let alone them.
But the badge holders going, do you think it should be work they should involve themselves with?
The thing is, they don't even get paid for it, so they're not doing it for the money. And, you know, if I was to give you my honest opinion of what I think a paedophile should end up doing, if it was a legit one, then I'd probably be for it, as much as I'd like to do whatever I could to them. But my thing is, if you're an SIA doorman going out, involving yourself in that kind of activity, you have to expect them to come back at you and go, you've broken, I'm going to say a law, but you're acting outside the realms of what that license is for.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
and that much I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think the license covers you for that.
No.
And I'm no expert on it. I've never been involved in it. But I see them on and one of the questions that's been sent in from Leeds is about the regulating of these groups. Now, I can only say that for every pedo you catch and you get off the street and he's prosecuted, fucking fair play. Mm-hmm. You know, that's my opinion. But for every one you get, do you then get 3 wrong? I don't know. And could you possibly ruin somebody's life by getting it wrong, and then you've got to answer that?
Well, there is that risk.
It's both-sided, that as well, though, because it's going to come to a point in time when they've spent months and months tracking these people, arranging meets. Eventually, when they get to a meet, it's going to go south.
Yep.
And one of the groups, something serious is going to happen. The worst case scenario is the person who has been, the potential perpetrator of this, sees his or her life ending within a short period of time, takes drastic action, pulls out a knife and stabs one of these groups, and overnight you've got death. And they're doing the right thing. For me, gather your evidence. If that's what you really, really want to do, pass it on to the authorities.
I think we can say this. There are some that are spot on in terms of the paperwork, the evidence, the way they conduct themselves, and the fact that they may well not put it on Facebook and everything like that, and just come to you and go, there it is, we're about to draw them out, I want you there. And I think that there is that.
Yeah, up and down the land.
And I think,
probably, yeah.
I think that the police probably don't have too much of a problem with that when you've got a skipper that says, yep, we'll have 2 guys ready for the arrest. All we want you to do is bring him to us in terms of law him out. If that's the way it's done, and it's done in the, shall I say, with the police's blessing in that respect, I don't have a problem with it. Sometimes, and again, no expert, but if you get it wrong, fuck me, you made a mistake.
But don't forget, getting them to meet at the bus stop on the high street at 3:45 adds nothing to the case at all, other than it puts a group of people at risk from a potential perpetrator. If at that point you've gathered all your evidence, you've got enough. And we do the same. It's no secret. We have police officers in little dark rooms on computers pretending to be young children. We don't have to get them to meet us at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We know where these people live. We go around at 6 o'clock in the morning and give them an early morning chow. So getting them in the street does nothing but feed the ego of the group. And there's no need for it. Gather your evidence and submit it.
So let's draw a line under that one then. So for these hunting groups, if that's the right terminology, guys, if that is the right one, for these hunting groups, we're not of the opinion that they should be regulated, certainly not by the SIA or licensed.
I just don't see how you could ever license it or regulate it, and I personally, in my capacity as police, I wouldn't suggest it's something badge holders should associate themselves with.
No, fair shout. No, that's all we can do is sort of ask your honesty on that, and I don't disagree or agree. It's I think that you're right. Next question, and this one, I will say this one has been a lot of people have got this opinion. So I had the same sort of question come in quite a few times. It seems that whenever an allegation is made by against a member of door staff, and the doorman said, actually, no, he swung for us, he's done X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And again, remember this is UK wide.
Yep.
The police or the police licensing tend to side with the member of public a lot of the time, and the doorman is arrested. And yet, if the doorman says no, he's punched me in the face, they'll take the details of the member of public and won't arrest him. And I'm going to say a fair few doormen have said every time we've dealt with the police, it's almost like they're 75% in favour of the member of public. Do you think that, or is that a misconception?
I don't. I can only speak for Southampton and the New Forest and partially for Hampshire in the area that we cover. I don't think that's the case at all. We tell our officers, I say it'll come to us to review, but we tell our officers all the time, on the night, look at the footage, speak to everybody involved, and gather early evidence as to what has actually occurred. Few and far between do we arrest all staff in Southampton.
To tell you the truth,
I can't remember the last time.
I've not.
No.
And I'm not going to go on a whim here, but I've never had one of my doormen arrested off of a door in 10 years.
But I can't speak for the rest of the country. So, and there are differences even with licensing teams across the police forces in the country. Some aren't policed by police officers. Some don't do the Friday and Saturday nights. Some are only by admin staff and things like that. So there are differences across what we do nationally as well. But in Southampton, it's very few and far between. We tell our officers to look at the evidence, and yes, generally speaking, we get a lot of complaints that a door staff, male or female, has assaulted me because they've generally been ejected and they don't like the fact they've been kicked out of a booze or a nightclub. And they say, oh, I've been strangled or whatever. Actually, you've been kicking off and they've grabbed the scruff as they've grabbed your arm and pushed you out the door.
And I think that's all we can ask.
That's not an assault, because you kicking off and they've
you guys
pushed you
looking
out.
into it and not just jumping in, I think is what I think the doormen are expecting. And I do think, and like I said, I've got the most doors in Southampton out of everyone, and you don't give us too much grief. If there's a problem, you've generally always dealt with the right way. I think
Mark and I are very similar. And
the secret to it is, Marcel, it's about covering your backside. If you're going to grab hold of someone, make sure all your ducks are in a row. Make sure that you've used verbals. Make sure that you've used open gestures, your body language. Make sure you've done absolutely everything you can. It's caught on body-worn. It's caught on CCTV. If there's audio, even better. So the moment you grab that person and drag them out by the short and curlies, which, from time to time is going to have to happen, when they turn around and mank and moan, all that evidence is backed up already. Slow time, you can sit down and write your report. Just like a statement from the police. If I go hands-on with someone, if I hit them with my big stick, my statement's 3 or 4 pages long. Because I know in 18 months' time when I go to court, they're going to want to know why. They're going to know what power I used in law to hit that person. And I expect the same from the door staff. Long gone are the times where it's mouthy fella refused to leave, so I grabbed him and chucked him out. They don't tell you anything.
No.
We need to know why.
I think...
Mark and I work very much the same way, and we'll look at footage and dare I say it, our threshold collectively is probably fairly quite high. If someone's using a bit of force on a member of the public, we'll look at why, and if they're doing something fairly reasonably, even if it's a high level, and even if that person then suffers an injury, if they are the instigator of that and they've had force used against them, and yes, they've fallen or they've tripped, as long as they're cared for afterwards, that's fine. Southampton is not unique, but it's fortunate in its coverage from CCTV, from public CCTV at the council, and the door staff have got the camera network linked up to the radio network in Southampton. We've had documentaries done on it in the last 10 years from Channel 4 and Channel 5 looking at our licensing link network in the city, championing what we do and how we're all interconnected. So if there is an incident, we expect the door staff to say cameras on the front door of whatever venue, or cameras on us, please, so that there's no blind spots and things, so that all action is captured as well. So that is perfect for us.
I think from what yourself and Mark have just said, I think there's probably good advice for most doormen anyway. I think obviously exhaust all your avenues first. Use your communication. The best tool for a doorman is his mouth, and if you can communicate, use all of these things. So I'm not really going to say that. I think that's just good advice and common sense. Exhaust your avenues. Don't use force unless you absolutely have to, and then be able to justify why you've done it. And then I think pretty much, and I'd like to think common sense is here, where if there is footage, if there is CCTV, you're going to take one look at it and go, actually, the guy's a knob. He's gone at the doorman. Yeah, he's been pinned on the floor and he don't fucking like it. And then that way you can go, the doorman's done exactly what he's needed to do because of that. Is that a fair enough shout?
Absolutely.
I think?
It's we are much the same. If we have to use force, then we have to. But we go through a process where we've got 3 questions, haven't we? You know, do we have a lawful purpose? If I have to use force, what's the minimum amount of force I can use? And I've got the wrong order there, haven't I? What's my lawful objective?
Yeah.
If I have a lawful objective, do I need to use force? And if I have to use force, what's the minimum amount of force I use?
Okay. This is more of a question. We'll put it to each one of you, I guess. So, single man doors. Don't fucking allow them. If anyone wants door staff, say they've got to have a minimum of 2. Come on, guys. Every time you say, inadvertently, you might go to a venue and go, you need a doorman. And they pick on the word you use, you need a doorman. And then when I say, no, your risk assessment says you need 2 doormen, we want to supply you 2. Yes, I always want to supply 2. It's not fair on single doors. I'm just going to say, I know you can't ban them, but ban fucking single doors. Don't allow people to do single doors, because sooner or later, we are a thankless job just the same as you do. Yeah. It's the only job that it's the only other job in the UK where you can physically engage with people where they will fight you and pin you down and restrain you is as doorman, other than the police. Now, if you've got an interaction with the police, generally it's a negative one. It'll be one of the police saying, you've been a knob, you're being arrested, that's why you're into it. Never as a police officer patted me on the ass and said, you've been really well behaved tonight. You know, thanks for coming, you know, 'cause that's not the case, you know. But my thing is, if there was something that I would say as a director, when we look at venues and clubs, and across every venue you go, it's not safe for that single man on the door. It's different if you're saying it's just to tick a box to, and I'm talking about the British Legion checking members in and out. But genuinely, and I do mean this is across the board, every single company, everybody who will say to you, ban single man doors, in as much as, I know you can't ban them, but don't recommend somebody has a single, say you need security. Because they hone in on what you say, and they go, I don't care, Mark says I need a doorman. Ben told me I need a doorman Saturday. And I'm like, you got a 1,400 capacity venue. What's one doorman going to do? Do you see what I mean? And for us, that's a massive. It's a massive. Just don't do it.
This one's easy. Your beef's not with us. Your beef's with each venue.
Yeah, and it is. But they use your words. They're like
don't forget that each individual license has to be judged on its own particular merit. And when you come across security provision, yeah, you're right. I can now think back to a number of venues, and it will say 1 door staff for the first 100, and then 1 for every 50 after that. Yeah.
But if there's a fight, how many people does it take to have a fight?
So where the next step is, the owner of the business should now be sitting down with his risk assessment and going, okay, so I've got a 3-level venue, and for the first 100 people, I only need 1 security guard. But he's on my front door checking IDs. Well, how do I manage the fight on level 2 and the drug dealing on level 3?
But he'll expect my doorman to come running upstairs whilst checking an ID, and then put his feet up and pork chop the geezer and say, I've got it all covered. Because
well, his risk assessment's going to fail, and they
will come knocking.
Yeah, if something goes wrong, that's when they've got some sticky questions to answer that. There's nothing we can do about that. We don't say you need 2, you need this, you need. It's just a ratio what we'll always put down, and you'll find that probably pretty standard across the country.
How do you feel as licensing officers if door staff ask you to issue a Section 35 to somebody? So, Ben, I'm going to put it to you because you've been far too quiet. I'm putting it on you. So, Ben, if you're walking around and you just come past me as a doorman and I've got a bloke in my face, you put him out the club and he decides he's going to stand there, you're a fat fucking idiot, you're this, you're that, and I say, listen, can you do me a favour? Can you get rid of this guy? He stood in front of our venue. And I then say, can you give him a Section 35? What's your opinion of door staff asking for that?
I don't think there's a problem with asking it. If it meets the criteria that he's behaved in such a way that it warrants it, then I don't see a problem with it. It's not something we have to. If
somebody walks off, or door staff don't generally ask for that. But if somebody's in the door and we've got a queue of people and he's stood there and he's on the pavement, so we've got no powers to move him on, and I'm going to say to you, do me a favour, get rid of knobhead
Yeah.
here, and he's abused me, he's abused everyone. What's your feelings on door staff saying, do me
Absolutely
a favour?
fine.
The secret to this one is, Marcel, and you've hit it on the head, is you've got to sell it. You can't just say to the cops, this fella's been a bit of an idiot, can you 35 him? And expect them to do something about it. However, if you said, this person's been an idiot, he won't listen, he's had too much to drink, he's been jumping up and down on the tables, he's thrown drink all over the staff, he's done... If you give them 10 things that he's done wrong, because don't forget, they've got to be involved in antisocial behaviour, or there's a likelihood that their continued presence will lead to antisocial behaviour. And at that point, once the officer's satisfied, they can issue the 35. If you're just saying, he's been a pain, can you get rid of him? Well, the answer, and I wouldn't be surprised, is no. If you give it a little bit more meat on the bones, so to speak. It's like anything, you know. It's like any offence. There's a number of points that we need to prove. You know, if you steal a Mars bar, there's 5 different parts to theft that you need to prove. And if you don't get one of them, theft's not complete.
What's that one? I like Mars
It
bars.
it could be, you know, if you didn't permanently intend to keep it, you were going to return it the next day. You were only doing it for a joke. If you could prove that and honestly prove that, then you haven't met. You haven't met.
There would be no chance of that Mars bar back if I had it.
But it's the same with the Section 35.
Okay.
If you're saying they've been a fool, can you 35 them? It's not enough for me. If you gave me a full story of what they've done in the last 20 minutes and I'm now satisfied, they'll have a 35 every single day of the week, not a problem.
Fair enough. So, guys, as long as, again, we can justify it and say, look, this is the reasons why we want this guy 35. So, as doorman, if you're listening, if your police officer or whoever is not really wanting to do it and you say, look, he's caused this, he's caused that, he's coming back, he's done this, he's been aggressive, give them a list of names. Really, they should be Section 35 of them, providing you can sell it.
Good to know as well for door staff on a Friday, Saturday night, wherever they are up and down the land, to know if there is one in place as well.
How would they know?
Speak to the officers out and about.
Okay.
Or if they're engaged with the nighttime economy planning and stuff
Would
in the
Whiskey
cities.
One know that?
In
So
Southampton,
we'd say to that person, he's on a Section 35, he shouldn't be down at your bar.
So in Southampton,
Okay.
Whiskey One's the CCTV network.
Yep.
So you could raise that to them, and they could.
Yeah,
keep
you've
an eye on
got
them.
one in Portsmouth called the Portsmouth Eye, I believe now.
From what I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Throw that one in there. Another question, and we'll draw the questions to an end in a sec. Venues with a capacity of 300 or more. Do you not feel that any venue that holds 300 or more should be using ACS-approved companies, not companies that pay cash in hand?
I think that's a matter for the SAA to sort out. I don't think it's down to us to say who they should and who they shouldn't be using.
The reason I think that's a relevant question, obviously, you know about Martin's Law is coming in.
Yeah.
There's lots of changes. I've just been on a course and sat there and listened to what we should be looking to mitigate bits and pieces. And as much as it's not, I don't think it's a finished article yet. I believe that there are things that are very valid, and they choose to use a capacity of 800 or more.
Yeah.
But statistically, you're more likely to get hit between 300 and 500. And to have, I believe, and I don't mean this to be derogatory to any other companies, but you would like to think SIA-approved companies put provisions in place. We do, other companies do, to encompass and at least think about these legislations and these rules that are coming in. And we've started to do that now with the expectance that it's pushed through as law, and sooner or later venues will have to take this into account and say, we need to think about this. How can we take steps to do it? And somebody has messaged and said, up north, our local councils are now stipulating that any venue that holds 300 or more must have an ACS-approved company. What's your thoughts on that? I suppose it's really not a police licensing matter, is it? I guess, but
I don't get why they're wanting an ACS-accredited firm.
the councils should be using ACS-approved firms as well. That's part of the ACS. It's if you're going to be part of the government, you must use a government-approved company, as in
So
ACS.
that's the government
That's what's there. But I can tell you now, firsthand from Southampton Council, their words were, as long as you're cheaper, we don't care. Yeah, I put it out there and I said that.
I wonder if that is just guidance then.
It's
It must be if it's not up and down the land.
Yeah.
well,
It's,
the SIA's words to me were, Southampton City Council are the only council in the UK
Oh.
that have this adopted attitude.
right.
They are the only ones. So I don't know exactly what that means, but I think
But I suppose there'll be a massive raft of differences between non-ACS and ACS.
Yeah, there will be.
Or other than, putting it simply, other than doing your own training, what other difference would there be?
So
You can
there's
sign-
the,
you can
the
sign
checks.
temporary
There's-
badges.
No. So with us, we have to go through so much. Any ACS company has to go through so much stuff. Our guys are on payroll. They're employed. They're not self-employed. They are insured. In-house venues don't very often have insurance. We can go through this later, but there's a lot of differences. So from our point of view, there are a lot. I'm not saying that it changed my world being ACS, because it certainly didn't. If anything, it gave them a stick to beat me up with. But the reality is, it did make us, I hate saying this, but it made us a better company because we implemented. I've got staff downstairs that do nothing but do P-files for our staff. They want to know where they've been, who they work for, what training they've got, what training we give them, what do we think is important to us, what we think. So one of the things our guys do that I don't know many companies do, we put our guys through safeguarding. All of our guys are safeguarding for young adults and children. So it's just a feather in the cap, but certainly when it comes to our staff, they're employed. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, and for us, that's a big thing. Anyway, right, we're moving on. We're going to wind this up in a sec, but let's go. Now, I'm going to be really fucking honest. What's the dumbest thing you've seen on your jobs? Come on now. And don't hold back here.
With SIA or in general?
I don't care. There's got to be some dumb shit you see regularly. So, what you...
Do you want to say it, or should we? So we.
Yeah. There was a. It's an SIA one, so it's kind of
Okay,
relevant.
yeah.
There was an SIA chap doing some searching on entry at a venue, and just pat downs on entry. I won't say where or anything because it's not fair to do so. And a couple of people behind said, "You can't do that to her because she's a girl, female." And then door staff chap went, "No, she's not." "Yes, she is." "No, she's not." Looked at the female waiting to be searched.
Oh, I
And
think I
reached-
know what you're going to say here.
And without any hesitation, this doorman reached out and just squeezed this person on the breast.
I think I know who this is.
Yeah. And when we read that report, we were like, no, surely not.
This didn't happen. This
Surely-
never happened.
No, surely not. So we went and looked at CCTV, and yeah, it did.
I know.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I know who this is.
And then when we watch CCTV, it's like time freezes because the person who it happens to panics and stops and freezes dead solid. The doorman freezes dead solid, the staff also.
This doorman is no longer. He's sadly passed away.
Oh, has he?
Oh, I didn't know
I didn't know that because this was a few years ago. It's about 3 years ago.
Last year, this doorman passed away.
But
I know exactly what you're saying.
It was one of the most bizarre pieces of footage I think we've ever reviewed.
And it happened.
Yeah.
And-
And we were just looking at it, and like I say, when it happens on the footage, it's almost like you press pause because everyone just stops. Because I think he realised she was kind of like,
The owner of that venue came to me and went,
yes,
"Can you
was
believe?"
brilliant. He was brilliant.
And I went, "Oh my god!"
And I think everyone at that split second realised everyone's just made a mistake there because there was no malice, there's no ill intent, and we recognised that.
Yes.
I think she recognised that,
And gladly you recognised it
and we
as well.
recognised that.
And if you knew that type of who he was and the bloke he was,
yeah.
100%. And
But
I'm glad that you saw it that way, because
And that was
I
one of the
genuinely was like,
strangest.
"Why did you do that?" And he was
yeah.
like, "Oh no, I didn't mean it like that, but now it could be seen like that. Oh my god,
Yeah.
I did that." And I went,
Yeah.
"Yes, you did." And he went, "Oh oh shit,
Yeah.
and then I think
and we worked with the female and we worked with him and resolved it by going on some consent and sexual awareness training, which is the best result for everybody.
100%. And I've got to say this: hats off to you. We did his extra training. He came here, and we did it. And ironically, actually, I never thought I'd say this, but hats off to you, because you guys dealt with that exactly in the right context that it should have been. So, yes, I get that. But
but at the same time, had the victim said no, then we would have had to go through
I understand.
assault prosecution.
But
because that's what it was.
And I'm glad that she saw it in the right way, because this wasn't a guy trying to. Let's make it clear. This wasn't a guy trying to sexually assault anyone, and it wasn't.
But when you watch the footage, it was just.
You do. You just go. What the fuck?
that sort of GIF or meme on Instagram where everyone slaps their forehead in the audience. It was that. It was just
for sure.
Like, what on earth?
Now, Ben.
Anyway.
Ben,
I can't beat
you're
that.
from you probably can't beat it, but you are from Portsmouth and you work in that area, and I know there must
I've only been there a few months, so.
Listen, a few months you must have hundreds.
He's had one Christmas in Portsmouth, so come on.
What's your pet hate? I mean, is there something that when you do your jobs,
You'll like this one. I hate it when officers, and they do it all the time, refer to your door staff. I say all door staff as bouncers. It pisses me off.
Yes.
I hate it. Do not call them bouncers.
No. What would you call us? I've got some names for us.
Door staff.
We are ejection specialists.
That sounds a little bit.
Attitude adjusters. Listen, if a fucking,
That sounds like a euphemism. Ejection specialist.
If a fucking lumberjack can call himself a tree surgeon, or a fucking scrap man can call himself a metal specialist, I'm calling myself fucking surgeon. I remove parts that don't work. No, genuinely.
Marcel, I've got
Don't call
one,
people
quite
bouncers.
an important one if I can do so very quickly.
Go on.
And it's to do with complaints.
Yes.
Whether it be the little slap around the face, whether it be a full-on punch.
Is this a complaint from the doorman or from...
This is a complaint from the doorman. So whether he or she's been slapped around the face, kicked in the nuts, put in a headlock, whatever it is, when the old bill turn up, make that complaint. You make that statement. You can, at the end of your statement, say, I don't want to go to court. I don't want anything formally done about this, but I'm giving you the story and the evidence, what you need. When that little person gets down to custody, we've got a whole raft of things that we can do, our end, without needing to go to court. We can still interview the person, find out what they said, whether they're willing to accept it, whether they deny it. We can still take action, and that might be at the lowest possible level, with the first telling off, the second telling off, the 13th written warning, whatever that may be. But without the complaint from the beginning with the door staff, our hands are tied. We can't do anything but release them, no charge.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to stop them, if they haven't been given a 35 instance, to go back to the venue and take umbrage with the club. So I'd say to every single member of door staff, please, make that complaint. If you've gone hands-on, they've done enough for you to go hands-on, make the complaint, if nothing else, to back everything else up, to tidy it up.
But follow it through.
Follow it through.
Yeah.
You can say at the end of your statement, I've told you what's happened in the night, I felt this, I heard that, I feared this, I feared that, and I give them a backhander for a lawful reason. However, having said that, I don't want it taken any further, but here's my complaint. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't want to go to...
I think you're right, and I know why. I know why you're saying it, and I actually agree with you. For you guys out there, that when you do make that complaint, and it's a frustration for me as well as a director, that if our doorman call the police, then follow it through. Say, this is why we want it. Yes, we want to press charges, or we want to make the complaint, but we want him arrested for this reason. Not, oh, man the fuck up, get this guy out and call the police and say, can you get rid of him? Don't do that. Either the police are needed or they're not. If you're going to call them to do something, then follow it through and at least let the police deal with it the way they need to, or the way they deem it fit. And I do see your point there. It can be frustrating, especially when your guys turn up. And I ask people if not, again, I don't work the door too much, but if a girl comes out and says, look, this is what's happened, that's what's happened, my first thing to her is, do you want to press charges, yes or no? And if she says, no, I don't want to press charges, I say, well, I'm not calling the police. Simple as that. I'll get him out for you, but I'm not holding him, or I'm not calling the police, because all they're going to do is get there, and you're going to say, I don't want to press charges. So I do agree with that. I think it's a total waste of your time. You turn up expecting to nick somebody, press charges, whatever it is, and that person says, "Oh no, I just want them to go." Well, we could have done that. So yes, I do agree with that. Last couple of questions. We're going to draw it on because we've got on so well, guys. We've gone over an hour. It's the longest podcast. Yeah, we've actually gone on. If you could, what training would you like to see brought in that you think might make the biggest difference? I'll give you an example. The SIA have obviously made it mandatory that all door staff be first aid trained. Yeah. It's worked positively. One of my guys has saved somebody's life, many times. I do think that that's something that should have been brought in earlier, but it shows its worth and its effect. If you as licensing officers could, what extra training do you think might be beneficial or help understand licensing law? Whatever. Tell me what you think.
For me, it would be report writing.
As in, learn to read and write in English.
No, because
not that basic.
It can be, it doesn't matters not to me if you write it in French. I'll have it translated. But if something,
be able to write.
If something's gone down in your venue, write about it. Don't give me 15 words. Give me a good overview of what's going on, because it's what saves your bacon.
What happened? Describe it. All of that sort of stuff. But
I suppose it's just covering some of those relevant points that we would look at. So we looked at obviously the points to prove with regards to offences. So it's just covering those, as you say, the what, whys, whens, how, and all that lot.
So on our courses, we emphasise that a lot. So I will say to people, and you can tell me if you think this is right or wrong, but I don't want to see war and peace. I don't want to see a load of bollocks. No. And I certainly don't want your opinion that, this guy punched him in the face, but he was a dick, so he deserved it. But what I do want to see is at approximately 12:30, two gentlemen met in the centre of the dance floor, and it appeared that one struck out the other. They were wearing this is what happened. They were separated. One was taken to the front door. This one was taken. What action was taken then was he was given first aid. We held, and the police were called, and at that point he was handed to the police. So there's a start, a middle, and an end.
Mm-hmm. You can bullet point it
with any force in the middle.
And then for you guys to come along and without even seeing it, be able to read it and go, pretty much get what's happened. And that for us you'll be surprised. And for many doormen that have been in the industry for long, there's people that come through on our courses that can't spell their name, and you genuinely go, are you fucking kidding? I've seen people at festivals that have come to us that can't speak English, and I'm like, how did you get a license? And it's a concern. And I sent a whole carload home that turned up at one of my events, and every time I asked you a question, she'd answer. I was like, how about shush, you answer? And it was just, got to the point. So, report writing. So, that's your biggest gripe in terms of what you'd like to see is more factual evidence in the report. So, it's clearer, it makes your life easy.
And plus, it sort of safeguards the security guard as well, because if they have written down exactly what's happened and justified it, it's there in black and white. They can say, actually, I've done it for these right reasons, rather than just a couple of lines and then, 3-4
Doormen
months.
can be lazy. Let's be honest, they can be lazy.
Yeah.
And I think they just put, I threw this guy out at 8 o'clock tonight, he left.
But then 3 months down the line, that means nothing to no one.
Yeah.
So hence, like when Mark said earlier, if we use force, our statements are quite detailed, and we do that straight away. So 6 months' time when we're at court, it's there in black and white, and we can't...
Let's be honest, if you haven't got that, it can bite you in the ass.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you got our letter through saying, I'm suing you or your company because your doorman caused me to break my finger when I got ejected from said nightclub.
Yeah.
And you get the incident report from that nightclub because it was an entry and it just says, white male ejected at 20 past midnight being a dick. That you've got nothing to work with then.
Yeah.
And then, because it's 3 months ago, you speak to that doorman, they're going to go...
And also, let's be honest, if you're arresting somebody from the time of the arrest to getting them to court, you're talking a year or two.
Potentially.
At least.
Yeah. A year or two.
If there's anything complex,
I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. I need to fucking know what I did.
Listen, we always say, if it ain't written down, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I'll try that with my wife.
And going back to the 3-4 questions, like Lee said earlier on, You know, if that's all you cover in what you want to write in your report, was I trying to achieve something that is lawful? You know what? You're getting them out your venue. That's a lawful reason. They've done whatever you get them out.
I think there is I mean, I can say I've been doing this 30 years, and I sort of don't. I'm quite blasé because I know that I can get somebody out, and I know that I'm doing it within a reason, and I'm too fat and old to worry about throwing somebody out for the kicks. I'm only going to throw you out if I really have to. So for me, I know I can justify why it is, and I can go, that's what's happened. I think sometimes maybe doormen can be a little bit fearful about going, well, actually, I had to shove him through the door because he put his hands on the door, and 3 of us had to push him through, and it didn't look textbook on the video, so I'll just leave that out. And maybe that's just through not understanding that actually you can do that.
Yeah.
Actually, you can do this.
Yeah.
And the police will sooner understand it and go, yeah, I can see what's happened there. And yeah, the guy put his hands on the door, so 3 of you did push him down. He ended up on his face, but if he hadn't put his hands on the door, then it wouldn't have happened anyway. So
it goes back to our role at the start, explaining what we do. You know, yes, we review incidents that happen at pubs and nightclubs. We would much rather that venue report something that they've had, or an incident, a member of staff report it, than expect a member of the public to, because if we find out that something's happened and it's not been reported, we take umbrage with that. Likewise, if somebody's used force and they've left that bit out, and we then see the footage and we go, well, so that's not included. Why have you not? Are you hiding something? You know,
I sometimes get asked to go and view CCTV. Sometimes not even at my venue. They basically say, Marcel, can you come and look at this?
What do you think? Yeah.
And there are times where I've looked, one in particularly just recently in Romsey at a certain venue, and I went, he should lose his licence. And she's like, really? I said, if the police get hold of this, and I'm not going to, but I said, if the police get hold of this, his licence is gone. Because as a doorman, there's nothing he can say or do to justify that action. Just like our friend earlier on the, you know what I mean? That's you need some story for that.
And that's the same. That goes for us as well, right?
100%. 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to kick down your door and hit you with my big stick, spray you with my gas without having
A good
reason to do it. And if I did, I expect to lose my job.
Yeah.
So we're going to come on to the last questions now. So I'm going to wind this up, guys. You've been
Quick
great.
fire round.
So it's the last bit, but what is the best, or what's the biggest positive change you've seen in the industry, whether it be from the SIA or whatever, or has the SIA done enough to change? What's the best thing you've seen in the last years or so, or is there a positive or not? Sum it up for me.
To me, from both sides of the fence, from someone what enjoyed a rock in the 90s,
Yep.
because that's what you got in the 90s, to now being old Bill, the SIA, for me, have professionalised the outfit.
Okay.
No longer am I seeing the big, muscly fellas on the door looking for a scrap. I see professional young men, young ladies,
Yep.
doing the job what they clearly love, because it is a hard job, working the doors till 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
For sure.
And the customers, by very virtue of what they are there for, are difficult.
Yeah. It's a thankless job.
Yeah. So professionalising it, for me, I think.
Ben, what do you think?
Well, it's the same. It feels safer out and about in the nighttime economy generally now.
Yeah.
Knowing that the door staff are there, whether they're inside venues or just outside, I think it does create a safer environment.
Sure. For sure.
I can only echo that, really. The resilience of door staff since COVID, I think the customer base in the nighttime economy has got a lot harder. Managing people going out has got harder. The behaviour and attitude of people being out and about is more difficult for whatever reason since lockdown. And the SOA dealing with them is more of a challenge than it's ever been. And I think the resilience of the staff that have remained pre-COVID and those that have started in the trade since COVID have been really, really good. And there have been challenges, shortages and so on. And I know about that and we're aware of that. So just the resilience and the SIA numbers picking up again is really good to see. And we're supportive of it.
Yep. Brilliant. So to summarise it, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we are, I can't complain. Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously ups and downs, but pretty good. So, guys, for you guys that are listening, and there's currently 11,400, on the stream. So, for us, it's a positive,
Yeah.
you know, and I can only speak for like our company, and I for one try not to employ dickheads. I try to truthfully, you know, if we can work with them, we can make them into better doormen, and we've got some great young lads, we've got great youngsters that are coming through, we've got some great girls. I mean, really good. And for us, we put a lot of time and effort into the training. We put a lot of time and effort into what we think will help, and stuff that we don't necessarily need to do, but we do. The industry is different. A lot of times people say, is it different today? And I will say this, and I would concede this to a lot of doormen today. We are currently dealing with a generation, the worst generation of teenagers that have come up. And I think we've reaped the rewards, or lack of them, that we don't discipline our kids 10, 12 years ago. And now we've got 18, 19, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds that have no fear of the police, that have no fear of, I was going to say retribution. Not the
Any
right-
repercussion.
Repercussions.
Well, they don't know the word no.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are dealing with the worst, most arrogant generation, entitled
Yeah.
youth, you know, up to the mid-20s, where maybe we did something wrong back then. And I think
it's
that it's
not-
made that difficult for doormen.
I think the beauty of it is we've got a generation of kids who have gone through school going, you can't touch me, but actual fact, you get out in the big wide world, and oh boy, we can.
Yeah.
If you put a foot wrong, we're touching you.
Yeah.
And that's not only
And
not only the police.
I would like to see that emphasised more, truthfully.
The only difference now is you get 5 or 6 camera phones in your face,
Yeah.
filming you, and then
Yeah.
you get cropped footage of what you do, put
For
on
sure.
Facebook or whatever.
Exactly the same with doormen.
And then it looks really bad on
Yeah.
what you do. But actually, do you know what? You're not being filmed by chance. You're being filmed, and then all of a sudden it starts. Well, you don't just film something by chance. You're filming 2 or 3 minutes before that, the build-up.
So I don't know if you're aware, but you know the Julius Francis case at Wembley in Box Park, where
No.
So Julius Francis, ex-heavyweight boxer, fought Tyson. He's the one who cracks matey on the chin, out.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
I was one of the professional witnesses on the case, and I looked and viewed every angle they showed, and I'm a fan. What a shot. The guy deserved to be sparked out. He did everything wrong. As far as I'm concerned, Julius did everything right. Exhausted every avenue he could.
Okay.
But for me, you know, I looked at everything and said, did he break the law at any point? And I don't believe he did. I think he was acting in self-defence 100%, and he definitely had my backing. And when I wrote my whole report about it, and I said it was justifiable, it was one shot, he then put him in the recovery position, and this guy had already assaulted X, Y, and Z. And what you saw on the Facebook was the shot, the
3 second punch.
the last 30 seconds. What you didn't see was the previous 30 minutes of this guy doing what he had done. He'd already assaulted.
People
Dare I say you didn't see the after either, of the care and the first aid.
for sure.
Yeah,
people
you know,
never
and-
put the whole story out
Sure.
because it shows
So
them in
exactly
the
like you said, the cropped video. So somebody's in my face, all of a sudden they spit in my face, and all of a sudden I go crack.
Yeah.
You see that on, and everyone goes, fucking hell, the doorman's bang out of order. And that's the problem. And we know that. And social media is very good
Yeah.
at playing certain things that they want. And I guess it works. I know it works the opposite for police as well. The police are shown to arrest somebody and they go, oh, yeah, he's battering him with a stick. Well, hang on. This guy's kicked shit out of the police officer for the previous 10 minutes. And all of a sudden, that's happened. So I get that. Guys,
What I will say, if I
go on.
will, just if I get, it's not all the kids these days. You know,
No.
there are some good kids out there and everything else. But it's always the case that if you get bad service from the SIA, all door staff are idiots, crap,
sure,
whatever.
yeah.
If you get bad service from one copper, the police are terrible. If
New
you get
Year's
good
Day,
service from a copper,
New Year's
that
Day, I
policeman
would
was
not
good.
have talked to you. New Year's Day, I was so annoyed
Yeah.
at those two last night.
Yeah, but see,
I wish I'd
that's-
have known. I'd have rang you just to wind you up.
But that's the thing. If you get good service off a doorman,
Yeah.
you always say that doorman was brilliant, not door staff. It's always that individual. But when it's bad, it's all of them. And that's
Yeah,
the same
for
with the
su-
kids. It's the same with the
absolutely,
police.
for sure.
Same with SI. It's the same in life, isn't
And
it?
I said this to somebody just recently, and I will say this, and I can back this up. We get emails regularly, weekly, from people that will only go to venues that Security Nation do doors on. I had a lady who said, I will only attend 1865 because you guys, her daughter's in a wheelchair. So our guys wheel her in, look after her, make a fuss of her, and she goes, I will only go where you guys provide security because we feel so safe. My daughter loves the fact that you guys have looked after us. And I went, you know what? That means more to me than a 50-man nightclub contract. The fact that we're doing that right, I can sort of step back and go, do you know what? I like that. And for us, just trying to get it right to do those sorts of things, and it's so easy to get a negative. We all have these problems as door staff. Anyone can complain. And whenever somebody's being dealt with a doorman, just the same as the police, a doorman does not pat you on the bum on the way out and say, "Oh, you've been really well behaved."
We make an effort to do it whenever we can. Yeah. No one gets positive, do they? No one gets praise, but where we can and when we can, we do send an email.
We're the same, Marcel. We've got a street in Southampton which is a little bit more affluent than the rest, and incidents are going through the roof. We put a couple of cops down there on a Friday and Saturday night, and I think that's gone up to about 4 at the minute. And we've had members of the public email in saying, don't know what you've done, but it's changed it. So thank you. And that's what we do it for, right? That's what we do it for.
And that to me is a positive. And we're probably going to end on that positive now. But guys, I just want to say a massive thank you to Mark, Lee, Ben. And you know what, guys? Give us your feedback on the show. If there's anything that I missed, tough shit. Other than that, great to speak to you guys. I know that a lot of you that have asked these questions, there are some of you that are a bit disappointed I won't be able to get them all out. But I just want to say thanks to you guys. Great talking to you. It's been enlightening. And Andy, can you just answer that? Sorry, just answer that. He's rung me. It's on a private number. Probably a police officer trying to arrest me.
Well, Marcel, listen, if you get good feedback and your audience have enjoyed it, I think we're more than happy to come back down again at some point in the future.
Well, we'll do that. We'll do another show, and we'll just answer. We'll just go through it again. But like I said, it's good to know, because whilst I do have a personal relationship with you guys, I know you. I know what you do. I know you walk around the town. I don't actually know everything you do in terms of your job role. So for us to be able to go, you know what, Ben, bonus that you're here with us. There's 3 of you here. To get 3 licensing officers in one room is fucking... You got more chance of spotting the Loch Ness and Bigfoot. But the reality is to be able to say, listen, what is it you do? What is it we could do better? What's the bit that is just unnecessary from our point of view that if we stop doing that, it gives us... And at the same time, we understand it. And I think a lot of the things that we've said tonight, Dorman will understand, you know, especially with the likes of the R35, Section 35 rather, and things like that. Be confident in your ability to write stuff down, be factual. But these guys, thanks very much for your time. This is the longest podcast we've ever done. Guys, honestly, let me know your thoughts, and hopefully you'll be impressed and tune in next time. Thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate it.